By 1943, the tide of the Pacific War was turning, but victory was far from certain. The United States was locked in a brutal, island-hopping campaign against a determined and fanatical enemy. Every beachhead was paid for in blood. Every mile of ocean was contested. The industrial might of America was churning out ships and planes at an unprecedented rate, but the demand was even greater. The fleet was stretched thin across a vast and hostile ocean, and the early carrier losses at Coral Sea and Santa Cruz were still fresh, painful memories. A new generation of warships was needed, not just to fight, but to endure a level of punishment the world had never seen. As the war dragged on, the nature of the threat evolved into something terrifyingly new. The Divine Wind, the kamikaze, an enemy that turned its own pilots into guided missiles, a tactic born of desperation and designed to bleed the American fleet dry. How do you fight an enemy who doesn't want to survive the battle? How does a ship withstand a direct hit from an entire aircraft, loaded with bombs and fuel, aimed directly at its heart? The sea became a graveyard of twisted steel. Sailors watched the skies not just for bombs and torpedoes, but for human projectiles on a one-way mission to hell. The psychological toll was immense. The physical damage was catastrophic. The question became brutally simple. Could America build a ship that was truly unsinkable? From the fire and steel of the Newport News shipyard, an answer emerged. She was the 11th carrier of her class, forged in the crucible of a world at war. On August 16, 1943, she was commissioned into the United States Navy. Her name was Intrepid. It meant fearless, dauntless, resolute. She would need to be all of those things and more. Known to her crew as the Fighting Eye, she was more than just a ship. She was a 40,000-ton promise. A promise that America would not only fight, but would absorb the enemy's most hateful blows and keep fighting. The USS Intrepid was sailing to war, and her destiny was to become a legend of survival. The Intrepid didn't wait long to prove her mettle. She plunged into the heart of the Pacific conflict, striking the fortress of Truk Lagoon in February 1944. It was here she met her first trial by fire. A Japanese aerial torpedo found its mark, slamming into her stern and jamming her rudder hard to port. Powerless to steer, the mighty carrier was stuck sailing in a giant circle, a sitting duck in enemy waters. But the crew of the Intrepid was as fearless as their ship's name. A remarkable feat of seamanship and ingenuity, they jury-rigged a sail from scrap canvas and hatch covers on the forecastle, using the wind itself to counteract the jammed rudder and regain some measure of control. For days, the wounded carrier limped back to Pearl Harbor, steered by a makeshift sail like a ship from a bygone era. She had survived. The enemy began to call her the Ghost Ship, convinced she had been sunk. Her survival would be tested again and again. Off the Philippines during the Battle of Leyte Gulf, the kamikaze nightmare became her reality. Within 5 minutes, 2 separate suicide planes smashed into her flight deck. The explosions were catastrophic, the fires apocalyptic. Dozens of her crew were killed. Yet within 2 hours, her heroic damage control teams had extinguished the inferno, and she was landing aircraft again. After repairs, she returned to the fight, only to be hit twice more by kamikazes off Okinawa in the spring of 1945. She was bombed, torpedoed, and struck by suicide planes a total of 7 times. She was set on fire, her hull was breached, but she never sank. She earned the nickname the Dry Eye, because no matter what the enemy threw at her, she always seemed to find her way back to dry dock for repairs, rather than to the bottom of the sea.
So big.
The end of World War II was not the end of her story.
Look at that.
The Intrepid was a symbol of resilience, and she adapted to a new world with new challenges. She was modernized to handle the awesome power of jet aircraft. She patrolled the tense waters of the Cold War, a guardian against a new kind of global threat. She served multiple tours in the Vietnam War, launching attack sorties from her storied flight deck. Then her mission changed from the battlefield to the heavens. The Intrepid became a key player in America's race to the stars. In 1962, she was the prime recovery ship for the Mercury Atlas 7 mission, plucking astronaut Scott Carpenter from the ocean. In 1965, she did it again, recovering Gus Grissom and John Young, the crew of Gemini 3, the first 2-man American spaceflight. The warship that had fought in the darkest depths of human conflict was now welcoming home the pioneers of its greatest adventure. After 31 years of